our Encourage, Equip, and Engage lived out is through the people that come here to church. And as we hear their testimony about what God has done and is doing, because it's not just a one-time event, it's an ongoing event as God works in and through us every single day. It's not just a Sunday thing, it's a 7 days a week thing, right, Leslie? Is it on? Yes. It'll come on.
Hello?
There we are.
All
Perfect.
right. Hello.
So this is Lesley. And Lesley, can you tell me a little bit about yourself, about what your life was like before you met Jesus?
Well, it wasn't as good. When I was 5, my biological mom, she left me on a doorstep, and I got put into CPS, foster home. And then my grandparents came from California, and they took me when I was 6. They raised me, and from the outside looking in, it would look like I pretty much had like the best life because of all the awesome and amazing things that I had. But unfortunately, what I was lacking was the emotional connection, the love, the encouragement. And it was hard to grow up in a home when you have an alcoholic grandfather and you have a grandmother who is so unhappy she doesn't want to be home ever. And so it was really hard for me to find good role models in my life to be able to know exactly where I was supposed to go in life. I didn't really have a set path that I was supposed to step on, and the only path I knew was the wrong path. And so growing up, I just got a lot of emotional abuse from kind of both sides. One wouldn't talk to me, and the one that did talk to me wouldn't really say the things that I needed to hear or I should have heard. And so as I got older, I started looking for that connection, that love in other places. When I was 17, I started getting into partying, drugs, all that, just because I was trying to find something to fill that void in my life, and it was just hard because I didn't know how. I didn't know how to connect to people. I didn't know how to open up, and definitely would not have been able to do this. And so it was really hard to connect with anybody and to have that love because I was constantly being told that I didn't deserve it. So it was really hard. And then when I turned 18, I left, like I'm sure most 18-year-olds or even kids would really like to do when they turn 18. Not always the smartest thing to do, just so you know. But I left, and I wound up being, you said a few weeks ago, the homeless kids riding the city link, the homeless teenagers. I wound up being one of them. We had a tight little group, and we were actually called a gang. But in Coeur d'Alene, I hope you all know that there's not a real gang in Coeur d'Alene. But that's what we thought we were. That's where we had that was our family, and that's what we did. And we partied and drank and drugs and did all of that stuff. And, it was still really, really empty. And so I got sick. I got really sick, probably pneumonia, I would say, really close to her. And I got beat up by a girl. She got mad at me because she had a sick dog, and I gave that dog away. And I told her it ran away because I didn't want to get beat up. Happened anyway. And I wound up at a gas station on Government, the Chevron gas station next to the garbage can, because nobody would let me use their phone because I looked like a huge hoodlum, and I wasn't somebody that people would interact with. And my mom, Daniela, she drove by, rolled down her window, and I'll never forget the comment she made to me was, "Are you tweaking?" And I said, "No." And she's like, "Well, do you have anywhere to go?" And I said, "No." She goes, "Walk down to my house." She didn't ask. She just told me. "Walk down to my house, and we'll, help you out." And I was like, finally, somebody was actually there to, help.
Now,
reaching out.
Is Daniela your biological mother?
In the blood of Christ, she is.
Yeah.
So
anybody that Daniela, wave your hand up back there, right there. Something you may not realize, but the Cross family often looks out for teenagers who are in trouble on the street, like Lesley was, and rescues them. And this is their story, as well as Daniela's story this morning, of how somebody was sitting by a garbage can at a Chevron station with no hope, with nowhere to go, felt discarded and abused and lonely.
I had given up.
She'd given up. And then the Cross family, Daniela in particular, came along. And tell us what happened at the Cross home.
Okay, well, when I got there, they let me sleep, and they fed me, and when I woke up, I went into the backyard, and they sat me down at the table, and I really wish I would have brought my shirt. I completely spaced that, but I have a God shirt, and it's a green long-sleeve Hurley shirt, my favorite brand, my favorite color, and it was just really cool. And that was the first piece of clothing that they gave me, and they were telling me about how great God was. And all I could remember thinking was, oh, great, more Christians. And it was pretty amazing. Because growing up, or in high school, I had Christian friends, and they'd always invite me to church, but their parents never wanted me to go with them, and so it was kind of that kind of a deal. And so I was all there like, you know, God loves you, and I'm like, yeah, I heard it before. Like, okay, come on, people, just give me more food, basically. And they were starting to tell me, as I was looking at the clothes that they gave me, they're starting to tell me about how much God believes in me, which I thought wasn't real. I didn't think that anybody could believe in me. And they were telling me about how much he loves me and how much he'll speak to me in ways that I couldn't even imagine. He would show me things that I wouldn't have never been able to see. And just as my dad was telling me that he believes in me, that God believes in me, I was looking at the tag in the shirt. And I was looking at the size, but I flipped it over the wrong way. And on the tag, it said, I believe in you. I screamed, threw the shirt on the table, and backed up. I was like, whoa, not cool. And, and from there, it really started. They said, okay, well, let's go to church on Sunday. And like I said before, it was always kind of like people have always said, we'll take you to church on Sunday, but they never did. But when they came down, woke me up and said, let's go to church. I'm like, what? And they took me to church, and they just every night, I just started to see, like, I actually had, I never had a mom, I never really had a dad to love me in that way, and I couldn't understand God's love until I actually had people love me on earth. Yeah. And it was really amazing because I actually knew what a father's love is like through my dad, and I knew what, I told you I wasn't gonna cry.
That's okay, she's got waterproof mascara on this morning.
I put that on. I didn't know what unconditional love was. I knew conditional love, where I'll love you when you do something good, but I'll hate you when you do something bad. And I didn't know that there was a such thing as unconditional love until I got to this family. And no matter what I did wrong, I'd get in trouble, but like 20 minutes later, it was, we still love you. You know, yeah, you messed up, but you're still ours, and we're gonna take you. This, you know, and they basically just took me into their arms.
Yeah. Kind
of like God did when I gave my life to Christ.
Can you tell us about that? How did you get saved?
Dang it. Hold on. Sorry. It was 2 weeks actually after I came to the house. Yeah. It's pretty quick. And I was sitting in the backyard, and we had some family and friends over, you know, just kind of the whole deal. If you've ever been to the Cross family, you know, like, it's always a party, but it's really just the family that's there. And I was talking with the pastor's daughter, and I was starting to really be able to open up. I'm not really good at opening up, and I was really starting to talk, and it was really cool because as I was talking, it felt like I was able to, and I started crying. I have cried like I've never cried before. And it was the most amazing thing because I felt like I was being baptized with my tears. Yep. And I probably cried for like 2 hours straight. That's probably the longest cry I've ever had in my whole entire life. And I seriously, I think I was dehydrated at the end of it. But I just remember my dad holding me almost the whole time because I couldn't even stand, but when I was done crying, I felt like I was 2 inches taller. Yeah. Come to find out I was. So everybody knows. From 18 to 20, I grew 2 inches. But it was just an amazing feeling because I felt like everything that I had kept on my shoulders and everything that I just had laid upon, all the burden that I had laid upon myself, I seriously felt like Jesus was right there and he was just taking it and putting it on him. And so it was just the most amazing feeling because now I can feel like I can walk taller because I have him in my life. And the best thing is not only do I have Jesus now, but I have my family, and I can always lean on them, just like I can lean on Jesus. And the fact that I have that example in my life of what he's like is really amazing.
Pretty
So-
amazing story, isn't it? Yeah. Look at your mom. Yeah. That's huge. Good job. I'll take that from you.
Love and hug.
You can have it. You can be seated, yeah. So this is, after I shared a couple of weeks ago, Lesley came up and she goes, I've got to share my testimony because what you're talking about is my life. And this is what it means to encourage. This is what it means to get equipped. And this is what it means to get engaged. It's all in Leslie's life.